It's Friday, and you found your way to CNN Student News. Thank you for joining us as we wrap up the week. From the CNN Center, I'm your host, Carl Azus. First up, we're closing out our convention coverage with a look at the last day of the Republican National Convention. A crowd of delegates surrounded John McCain as he took to the podium last night and accepted his party's nomination for president. During the speech, the Arizona senator offered opinions on his opponent and his own party. Reggie Akey fills us in on some of the highlights from the final day of the RNC.
Here at the Xcel Energy Center, they're still popping the balloons and cleaning up the confetti with tiny little pictures of John McCain's face on it. It was his big night for that acceptance speech. It was his mission to try and rally the party and try and get 10% or so of Americans who still don't know who they're going to vote for to go to his side. It's a red, white, and blue wrap of the Republican National Convention. Showers of balloons and confetti and dancing on the floor. But not before John McCain accepted his party's nomination and promised to fight for the American people.
These are tough times for many of you. You're worried about keeping your job or finding a new one. And you're struggling to put food on the table and stay in your home. All you've ever asked of your government is to stand on your side and not in your way. And that's what I intend to do. Stand on your side and fight for your future.
Prior to his speech, Cindy McCain takes the stage for the second time this week.
It's going to take someone of unusual strength and character, someone exactly like my husband, to lead us through the reefs and currents that lie ahead. I know John. You can trust his hand at the wheel.
Earlier in the convention, she made a plea to help out residents of the Gulf Coast. An acclamation vote from the delegations made it official. Governor Sarah Palin is now the first female Republican VP nominee. With both conventions over, it's the final stretch. Just 4 debates and 2 months away before the general election. For CNN Student News, I'm Reggie Akey.
Today's shout-out goes out to Miss Hudgens' Geography and World History classes at Opelika Middle School in Opelika, Alabama. In what year were the national political conventions first covered on television? If you think you know it, shout it out. Was it 1948, 1956, 1960, or 1972? You've got 3 seconds. Go! In 1948, viewers were able to tune into the conventions for the first time ever. That's your answer, and that's your shout-out.
We are going to hop off the campaign trail now and check out some of the other stories making headlines today, starting with Vice President Dick Cheney's visit to Georgia. Now, we're not talking about the southern state. Vice President Cheney was in the country of Georgia this week, pledging U.S. support for an aid effort there. Cheney is the highest-ranking American official to visit the Asian nation since its recent conflict with Russia. You might remember the violent clashes between those two countries last month. Now, Cheney says that Georgia can count on Washington as a strong ally as it rebuilds. On Wednesday, the U.S. announced that it's sending a $1 billion aid package to help with the reconstruction efforts in Georgia. Parts of the U.S. are bracing for Tropical Storm Hannah as it moves across the Atlantic. Forecasters say it could make landfall this weekend as a hurricane near the North and South Carolina border. Both states are preparing for the storm. The governor of North Carolina has declared a state of emergency. And behind Hannah is Ike. This one's already developed into a hurricane, and a powerful one. On Thursday, forecasters called the Category 4 storm extremely dangerous. It's expected to be near the Bahamas on Sunday. And some good news for all of you drivers. Gas prices are down for the 4th day in a row. Yesterday, the national average for a gallon of regular was around $3.68, and that is down 10% from July when prices hit a record high over $4. Another economic indicator is dropping, but this one is not good news. The Dow Jones, or Dow. It's an average of 30 major stocks that experts use to gauge how the country's economy is doing. It took a hit on Thursday, losing about 345 points.
Is this legit? When we talk about the Dow, we're referring to an acronym that stands for Division of Wealth.
That's right.
This one's totally false. Dow stands for Dow. Charles Dow and Edward Jones founded a magazine that analyzed stock price averages. That's where we get the Dow Jones average.
Every Friday, we offer up a 10-question quiz to put your news knowledge to the test. This week, we're asking about some of the locations that were featured on our show. Can your students use their geographic genius to score a perfect 10? Head to cnnstudentnews.com, check out the free resource, and find out. When Chicago started its new school year this week, several hundred students weren't in class. Instead, they were taking part in a protest organized by State Senator James Meeks. The goal of all this was to send a message about funding for Illinois schools. Critics say encouraging students to skip is not the best way to do it. But Senator Meeks calls the demonstration a success. Judy Wang of affiliate CLTV in Chicago, Illinois, has the details on this controversial boycott.
School is in session at Chicago City Hall. Off the bus, into the elevators, and up to the 5th floor, where students park themselves outside Mayor Richard Daley's door.
Why are we here today?
Because we're boycotting the schools because we need more. You need more funding for the schools.
Day one of the boycott began in the north suburbs. More than 1,000 CPS students attempted to enroll in wealthier schools, including New Trier. Day two targeted government officials and more than a dozen corporations that support Chicago's 2016 Olympic bid. Students and retired teachers recruited for the boycott held class in the lobbies of those businesses, hoping to convince them to get on board this cause as well. Parents call it a great lesson in civics.
Missing a couple of days of school would have a greater advantage for all of our children.
No, she's not disappointed at all. I'm not disappointed at all. As you can see right now, they have study books, they have real teachers. I'm not disappointed at all.
A spokesman for Governor Rod Blagojevich says the governor will not meet with Meeks during the boycott. Mayor Richard Daley calls Meeks' actions selfish and accuses him of using children as political pawns. Meeks says he's just following in the mayor's footsteps, referring to a school funding rally at Soldier Field in June when school officials pulled thousands of kids out of class.
If he's irresponsible, I'm irresponsible. If it was a great civic lesson, according to his quote, when he did it, then it's a great civic lesson when I do it.
I feel like if it's a problem and an issue that needs to be solved, that's important. I feel like I should be here versus school.
But some students admit they hope to be back in their regular classrooms next week. In the Loop, Judy Wang, CLTV News.
Follow-up for you now. Late Wednesday, the organizers of the boycott called it off, but said it brought attention to this important issue. Now, whether or not you agree with how this protest was done, its goal, as far as the protesters were concerned, was to improve students' education. What about you? Are things going well, or are there ways you'd want to improve your education? Tell us what you're thinking on our blog at cnnstudentnews.com. And finally today, we're checking out a couple of this week's leftovers from the lighter side of news, so prepare your eyes and your stomachs for this trip off the beaten path. It's a mystery to me why anyone would want to eat a pile of chili spaghetti. It's not chili as in cold, it's chili as in beans and chunks with pasta. This dude, nicknamed Humble Bob, presumably for the way he felt afterward, ate 11.5 pounds of chili spaghetti to win $2,500. That's roughly $217 per pound. And before you say it's worth it, consider that it probably goes right back to the doctor. In the gluttonous world of competitive eating, though, it's a risk that all the contestants have to stomach. Now, these two guys would agree on one thing: the presidency is a sweet job. And what better way to sweeten the election season than with these candidate cookies? Biden and Palin are due out next week, but for now, it's McCain versus Obama in a confectionery campaign cookie contest.
Obama is definitely, by far, over any other presidential candidate out there, selling like crazy.
But is that a compliment? I mean, it says people are lining up to eat a cookie with your head on it. On the other hand, it's all in perfectly good taste, and it shows you just how much dough is spent on a presidential campaign. Now, aside from what you heard in that report, there will be no pun at the end of today's show. A lot of you have been writing into our blog saying you don't like the puns. Now, in our defense, they're just meant to be something fun, if not always funny. But we're going to let you guys make the final decision. Do we keep writing puns to end our show, or don't we? Tell us on our blog at cnnstudentnews.com. Meanwhile, have a great weekend.
Ladies and gentlemen, looking over at Joey Chestnut to see what